Tremors is the one movie that I always wanted to watch as a kid, but I was never allowed. And until now, I never really had a reason to watch it. So I thought it would make a great jumping off point for a month of bad spooky movies. A creature feature from 1990 that takes its inspiration from movies like Jaws and would eventually go on to play a small role for the practical work in Jurassic Park? Yeah, we're definitely covering this movie. I think it's hilarious that Kevin Bacon thought his career was basically on a downhill path because of this movie.
So when my agent called me up and said, giant worms underground, I was like, oh my God, my career is in the toilet.
He has come around on it since then and even reprised his role for a TV show that was sadly never picked up. Furthering my love for Mr. Bacon was his comment about his hammering skills from the opening credits.
You're dead, you're dead, and stop.
I certainly am better with a hammer than I was in the movie.
I love being surprised by movies, and Tremors took me on a ride and I was engaged the whole time. This thing has great build and release tension moments, really well written characters, believable action, and best of all, giant worms that cause havoc and terror. So with all of that, let's get into it. The movie opens with Kevin Bacon's Val jumping on a truck yelling "Stampede" as his friend Earl, played by Fred Ward, falls out of the back in his sleeping bag. There's a super fun fact about this scene, but since it's kind of a spoiler, we'll get to that at the end. They use rock, paper, scissors, which will become a recurring bit, to determine who will make breakfast before going to their day job as handymen working for the townsfolk of Perfection. A very ironic name, as it has a population of 14 and a soon-to-be infestation of ground sharks. Driving back to the town, they come across Rhonda LeBeck, a seismologist studying the area around Perfection because of some recent tremors.
He said it!
Val and Earl go to Walter Chang's, the local store, where we meet Bert and his wife Heather. Bert is a conspiracy theorist who doesn't trust big government and thinks the feds will be at their doors any day now. Our dynamic duo head out and we cut to our first sign of the tremors. Well, not tremors, they're actually called graboids, and that's what I'll be referring to them as. In a very Sam Raimi Evil Dead style homage, the camera stalks an oblivious Rhonda, and I love the way the ground goes up as it's about to get her before she gets in the truck and drives away. Val and Erla enjoy some drinks from their toilet cooler, and then go pump a dude's septic tank. Being fed up with the town of Perfection, they decide to leave once and for all by going to the neighboring town of Bixby. On their way out of town, they spot a local named Edgar Deems up on a power line, thinking he climbed up there when he was drunk? In another game of rock, paper, scissors, Val is the one who has to climb up and get Edgar down, only to almost take a tumble himself when he sees that Edgar is actually Deadgar. Thank you. I wrote that joke myself. Thank you. We then cut to a farmer tending to his dirt before he is violently dragged under while his sheep casually munch around him. Our duo gets back on the road, and when they pass the farmer's sheep all torn to pieces, we get a jump scare of his head under his hat. After making this discovery, Earl yells at some construction workers that there's a killer on the loose, cutting people's heads off. I love the sequence that follows when one worker stabs a graboid with his jackhammer, and he gets dragged along in a cool Jaws-like moment before meeting his demise. Making a pit stop at Chang's, the boys stock up, and when they try to leave town, their path is blocked by rubble and brain goo. Pulling a 180, they head back to Chang's once more, where everyone sees a piece of the graboid attached to the back of their truck. The next scene is kind of sad as an elderly couple is being all cute at the house that they're building. Then the man gets dragged down and the woman gets swallowed in their station wagon. Well, the station wagon gets swallowed and she just never gets out of it. Like, she has a lot of time to open up one of these doors and run away, but she just kind of sits there and lets it happen. Back at Chang's, the entire town starts to plan on how to deal with what's going on. That plan happens to be putting Val and Earl on a couple of horses and having them ride the 38 miles to the town of Bixby for help. Chang gives Earl a Swiss cheese and bullets-packed lunch, which is super sweet of him, and Heather gives them a rifle just in case. The duo ride out and pass the old couple's house from the night before, only to discover the lights of the station wagon facing straight up in the dirt. Not wanting to stick around to find out what caused that, Val and Earl once again speed off. But they end up getting knocked off their horses, and we get our first look at a graboid.
You know how long I've been waiting for this? Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
It's so well made, and for a practical puppet in 1990, I would say this is pretty fucking cool. And to continue on that, while they're running away from the graboid, the fence next to them starts to get taken down in this awesome shot of tension. Poor Val, he worked so long on putting this fence up. Like seriously, a really long time. Lucky for them, they run over some concrete, and the graboid, being a silly Billy, kills itself by slamming into the wall. Val then has a hilarious line when he yells at the dead body.
We killed it. Fuck you!
Rhonda shows up just in time to see the dead body of the graboid in full display. And then Val yells this out of nowhere.
I found the ass end!
I love Kevin Bacon. Never change. Never change. Rhonda uses her data to show that there are 3 more graboids out there, and they need to skedaddle. The trio run to some nearby rocks and take refuge on top, while the stinky tentacles below try to grab at them. Waiting a couple hours, Val tests to see if the graboid is still there, and the trio gets pissed off when it turns out it's just been waiting this whole time. So they spend all night on the rock, and the next morning they test once again, only to find out that graboids have incredible patience, especially when it comes to their food. Rhonda comes up with an idea to use some nearby poles for a fun vaulting boulder to boulder moment before they reach her truck. Fun fact, the boulders they're jumping to were made by the production team, and the only real boulder is the one they start on. They land on the truck and are able to escape and race off once again to the fan favorite and centerpiece of this entire movie, Chang's. Like seriously, every character spends so much time going to Chang's, leaving Chang's, going back to Chang's, leaving Chang's, going back to Chang's. It's kind of hilarious, and I love it. Everyone pressures Rhonda to tell them what's going on because they believe that since she's a scientist, that means she's smart and obviously has all the answers. Everyone goes outside to check on something, and then another graboid attacks as it breaches out of the dirt, chasing everyone back into Chang's. A kid on a pogo stick, who is just not aware of the giant monster attacking people 20 feet to her left, but she gets the graboid's attention through all her bouncing. So naturally, Val tackles this kid to the ground, and Rhonda gets tangled up in some barbed wire as she starts to get dragged into the mouth. Val helps her get free, which leads to this incredible shot of these practical planks rolling up behind them as they run away. An unfortunately timed cooler attracts the graboid to the store, and in my favorite shot of the movie, a graboid fucking breaches through the floor of the store. Dude, this is so good, and the fact that this is practical, are you kidding me? How is Tremors not one of the biggest movies of all time? This is incredible. I love every moment of everything that has happened so far. Not to bring the mood down, but Chang does get sadly dragged away and gobbled up by a graboid, which is a little bit of a bummer. Val and Earl head to the roof, but Rhonda takes a plummet out a window and ends up on a nearby water tower instead. While the town was dealing with a graboid, Bert and Heather were just out looking for a way to escape, and I guess none of the other graboids cared because they have no clue what's happening. Heather activates a machine in their basement, which attracts a graboid, but when it slams through the wall, we get another fantastic moment.
Broke into the wrong goddamn rec room, didn't you bastard?
I love the ever so casual pan over to their wall of guns. I love you, Bert and Heather. I love you. The graboid finally dies when Bert uses a fucking elephant gun to put it down for good. Another graboid goes after this guy Nestor by knocking him off his trailer and then sucking him down a tire. The lovely graboids continue to learn by finding Bert's truck and destroying it, meaning there's no way for the group to escape perfection. Earl, however, comes up with an idea involving their bulldozer and an old semi-trailer. They use a lawnmower as a distraction so one person can run out to the bulldozer to get it started and bring it back to pick everyone up. Of course, the way Val and Earl determine who will go out to the bulldozer is with another game of rock, paper, scissors. Val's a sore loser though, so he elbows Earl in the gut and makes the run himself. He stops in place when the graboid catches up to him, while Rhonda and Earl make a distraction. Val ultimately makes it to the dozer and picks up all the people before heading out. Bert and Heather, on the other hand, have been making pipe bombs and bring the bombs and a ton of guns with them when the dozer arrives to rescue them. The graboids continue to be good noodles in school as they keep getting smarter and smarter and end up setting a trap for the humans. The dozer collapses into a hole, and once again, everyone takes refuge on some nearby rocks. After another quick planning scene, Earl attaches one of the pipe bombs to a rope and throws it out like bait. One of the graboids swallows the bomb, which causes it to explode and rain wonderful orange guts all over everyone. When Val tries it on the last remaining graboid, it wises up and spits the pipe bomb back out, and the bomb just so happens to land on the pile of remaining bombs. Val decides he's smarter than this worm and makes a run for a cliff with another plan in mind. I swear, this movie has more planning scenes than Fast and the Furious has family scenes. Val uses his big brain to make the graboid burst out the side of the cliff and fall to a very gooey and wonderful explosion of guts. So that fun fact I mentioned all the way back at the start is that this death is actually foreshadowed when Earl falls out the back of the truck in his sleeping bag, looking very similar to a graboid. There's an awkward moment between Rhonda and Val where neither of them can tell the other one they like them, before Val finally works up the nerve and the movie ends on a kiss and some credits. Originally, this movie was called Land Sharks, and ultimately it's just, what if a shark was underground? The amount of references and homages to other staples from the genre are all over this movie, and if you're a fan of horror, they make for nice little Easter eggs throughout. And Amalgamated Dynamics, the design company that created the design for the graboids, are so incredibly impressive. The graboid design is based on real animals that the creative team got from nature books, including the heads of snapping turtles for the mouth. When Val gets the graboid to give itself the world's worst headache, the wide shot that shows the full body is a real prop they made out of lightweight foam. And even the scene where Bert and Heather shoot at the graboid in their basement is a mix of puppets, miniatures, and rear projection all blended together. It's a little noticeable in this one shot of Bert, but otherwise, this is a great effect that they pull off really well. I mean, there's only 2 shots of CGI in this entire movie, because like horror movies in the past, the special effects team had to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Plus, the shots of the graboids under the ground are really just a buoy that they buried, and it's being dragged along by a cable to simulate something in the dirt. I mean, all of this is just so well thought out, and you can tell they put so much care into every effect and everything they did. I hear a lot of people say that modern movies are ruined by CGI these days, and though I think some movies abuse it and don't do a good job in execution, I do love when a movie uses practical effects. I think CGI can help or hurt a movie the same way practical effects can help or hurt a movie. It all depends on how they're executed. Tremors is a perfect example of not abusing technology to make the movie look good, and instead using talent and a very clear vision to pull off the graboids the way they want. Something this franchise will not do very well in later installments. Bert will be the only character who stays consistent in this franchise, as he carries its moderate success completely on his back. I love that Reba fucking McEntire got her acting debut in this movie, because Heather and Bert are another thing Tremor does super well. Them being conspiracy theorists who have prepped their bunker for this exact situation adds a nice element to the dynamic between everyone. Look, I'll be honest, Tremors was one of those movies I always saw at Blockbuster, and the DVD art was intriguing, but I never got around to watching it. I was under the impression that this was a bad movie, but this is straight up just a masterpiece. I'm not kidding, I love this movie so much that I can't think of anything bad or goofy to say about it. Which means, to my surprise, I need to create a new rating category for this channel, because Tremors doesn't belong in just plain garbage or so bad it's good. So I'm putting this 1990 creature feature in a new category I call Just Plain Good. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to check out my video on the movie Harold and the Purple Crayon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what movie you'd like to see me cover in the future.